Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and it is Wednesday. So it's Wednesdays with Will. But it is the first Wednesday in December. And I do not do a Shakespeare play in December or in May. I take those 2 months off because life is crazy and I don't need to add something to it. But it is the first Wednesday in December, and December is the last month of the year, and that is, lends itself to reflection. So I'm going to take this opportunity to reflect on the plays. Well, I'm going to reflect on the rankings of the plays that I did this year. I've done so far, I should say. And I will do this again next year, and it will be all that I have read so far by then. So it'll be this plus another 10 plays, 9 plays, actually. And I had a ranking. So let me go through what my ranking was before we start. So if you haven't seen this before, I have a ranking system where, and this is based on the ranking system used in the All About Agatha podcast, where they rank Agatha Christie's novels. But I have certain criteria that I give a ranking 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And from that, I get a subtotal. And then I have another category, the of its time category, things that don't age well. Again, 1 to 5, but then that's deducted from the subtitle, which gives me a total. And that raw number, that number is what I use to rank. So let me go through what the rankings were going into this. Okay, so my lowest ranked play was The Winter's Tale. I read this in January. I didn't like it. My stack that I have here fell. So I have to kind of look for things. My next lowest play, so play number 9, was Love's Labor's Lost. Perfectly fine play. It's just the humor didn't kind of carry through time very well. So you kind of feel like you're missing a lot of stuff. My number 8 play was Cymbeline, which is interesting, but wildly, like he was smoking something when he wrote this one. It was, wow. A lot of weird stuff in this play, which is entertaining, but also it's a lot of weird stuff. And then I have The Merchant of Venice, which I really enjoyed, but this did not fare well in the of its time. So it got knocked down because of that. That's in 7th. In 6th place, I had a tie. I had a tie between, one second here, The Merry Wives of Windsor and Coriolanus, which is 2 really weird plays to be tied together. But number-wise, that's how it worked out. This is a comedy written for Elizabeth I because she liked the character Falstaff, so it's basically just a sex comedy. And this is sort of a really, I think, a sophisticated political play set in ancient Rome. Okay. So 4th place, I had The Tempest, which is my husband's favorite play. It's a late, it might be the last Shakespeare play, stuck on an island, and there's magic and drunk humor. And then I had the only history that I have read this year, which is Henry IV, Part 1. I enjoyed it. It's history. It's a king and his irascible son who just wants to party all the time. And then I had a tie for 1st place. I had Twelfth Night, which is my very favorite play. No matter what the rankings are, this will always remain my favorite play, I am sure. And Othello, which is really good. Othello is an actor's play, just really good characters in it. So that is what we're going into. So let's talk about the rankings. So the way I rank them are what I gave it as a rating, like how many stars I gave it. Reputation, which is how well it's known. As I said, there's like 3 plays that will get a 5 on here. Macbeth, Hamlet, Midsummer Night's Dream. So I didn't have any of those this year. I will have at least 1 next year because we are going to do a Midsummer Night's Dream in June. And then I had ease. So ease, I will come back to ease. There was ease, which is how easy it was to read and understand. And then I had the characters, like how well the characters, I thought how well they were fleshed out. How sophisticated they were, not really sophisticated, how complex they were, that sort of thing. Were they just kind of comic stereotypes, or were they like real, I felt they real breathing people. And then I had poetry, which is just sort of the language. This is one that was really had a lot of language. Did have a lot of famous lines, but did the language really suck you in? And then I had, would I see this? 1 is you could not pay me to see it. 5 is I would travel to see it. And that would give me its subtotal. And then I had its of its time, which again was things that just didn't age well. So we're going to go back to that ease category. I noticed throughout the year that my rating for that just kept getting higher and higher. And I realized that it probably wasn't because the plays were getting easier to read. They were because I was getting better at reading them. So what I decided to do was just get rid of that character, get rid of that category. And I replaced it with something called stickiness. Like, how much does the plot and the details and the message of this play stick with me after I've read it? Now, to be fair, it's been almost a year since I've read A Winter's Tale, and it's been less than a month since I've read Othello. So this will change. I will revisit these again next year, and then I will have even more time. So these numbers may change every year, but that's where we are right now. And then I really looked at the kind of, with the stickiness, I re-looked at the characters again. I really give a closer look at the characters now, and that kind of goes in with stickiness. So let me go through those 2 ratings with each play that I did in order that I did them, which is going to mess up my pile, but that's okay. So the first one is The Winter's Tale, which was the first play I read. I gave this 1 for stickiness, maybe because I'm trying to block it out. This was just a very, in a lot of ways, disturbing play about a guy who blames a wife for his own, imagined things. It's just, yeah, I didn't like it. It's my lowest for rating. Yeah, I probably even rated it higher. I gave it a 2. Probably rated it higher than I would have, except it was my first one. I was giving a little grace. So stickiness and the characters, I also didn't think the characters in here were especially strong. So it got a 1 for stickiness and characters. Then I read The Merry Wives of Windsor. So this is an interesting play because this was written for, as I said, for Queen Elizabeth. She really liked the character of Falstaff. So this is all about Falstaff and these 2 women who kind of like trick him, and there's lots of sex jokes. So it's not a super deep play. And that's probably why it doesn't rate. I only gave it a 2 for stickiness, because plot-wise it's just like sex jokes. I enjoyed this. So, it's not that I didn't enjoy this play. It just isn't one where there's, really strong plot or anything like that. Also for characters, I gave it a 3 for characters. It's because Falstaff was such a great character that he gets this. However, Falstaff is different in this than you would see him in the history plays. So, I thought that as far as comedy goes, the characters went pretty well. And then I read Henry IV Part 1. And I gave this a 3 for stickiness. And part of that, I think histories will just do well in this category because they build on each other, and I already know the history. So there you go. But I really, just the thought of like Henry IV being so frustrated with his son, that's sort of the thing that sticks with me. And I gave this a 3 for characters as well, because I do think that Prince Hal, so the to become Henry V and Falstaff, are really great characters. I didn't think Henry IV was that interesting of a character, but I thought that this should be called Prince Hal Part 1, but whatever. And then I read Coriolanus. So this was one that I made sure I read at a certain time because I saw it live. So I did see a live production of this one. Let's see, I gave this, I'm still kind of thinking about the plot. This is a very political plot, and it does not measure up 1-to-1 with our current political situation, but there's enough kind of stuff going in there that makes you think about our current political situation. So even if I don't remember, all the details, I still remember sort of the ideas around it because of that. I also gave this a 3 for characters. I thought that, Volumna is a great character. She's a Judi Dench character, and Judi Dench has played that character, I think. But there are some really interesting. There are interesting characters in this play, and I think they play really well off each other. Even if I don't remember that interplay so well, I remember more of the political side of it. And then I read Love's Labour's Lost. So this play, I gave it a 1 for stickiness. I got to be honest, and a 2 for characters. And it's really not. The problem with this play is it's it was probably hilarious in the 16th century, 16th and 17th century. Can't remember. I think this was an early play. And there's a lot of humor that just isn't even in our realm of humor anymore. Like, it doesn't translate. It's not that it didn't age well and it's offensive. It just isn't funny, and we don't know where the humor is in it. This is really a play that's more of a frame for a production. It's really up to the actors and the director to create the humor in this play, because the humor that was written into it just isn't there anymore. The plot is not that impressive. The characters, I gave this a 2 for characters. It depends on the production, you see. It's not the play itself. So there you go. Okay. Then The Merchant of Venice. So this one I also changed. Let me go down here. This one did I? Oh no, I did not change the of its time, but the stickiness, I gave this a 5. I am still thinking about it. And I still, it is anti-Semitic in our eyes. But was it anti-Semitic at the time? I think it was probably very progressive at the time. It probably was almost anti-Semitic at the time. But there's so much of other stuff put in there that you can't get past the anti-Semitism. But this probably has one of the stickiest plots that I've read. I mean, just really thinking about it. And I think the characters in this were really strong. I gave it a 4 as well for the characters. So this one went up on both of those. Then what did I read? I'm back here. Then I read Cymbeline, which, to be fair, is kind of a mess of a play. It is kind of a mess of a play. I don't know what he was smoking when he wrote this, because it's crazy. I gave it a 3 for stickiness, and a 3. Lots of times when I give something, anything, a 3. Not always, but sometimes it's because I don't know what else to give it, and that was kind of the case here because it's such a weird play. I also gave it a 3 for the characters. I don't remember. What I remember in this are some of the weird things in it. I don't necessarily remember the characters, although I do remember quite clearly. I have to look up her name because I forgot her, Imogen. I forgot her name already, but I do remember her as a character. I thought that was a pretty well done character, but the rest of the characters just kind of melt away for me. All right. Then I read my favorite Shakespeare play, which is Twelfth Night. And this one, I gave a 5 for stickiness because it's my favorite, and I still think about it, and I love it, and I can't wait to see it later this month. As for characters, I gave it a 4. I do think some of the characters are a little stereotypical, but they're still in my mind very distinct. And lots of times that's where the rating is going to go down here. Are the characters distinct or not? And lots of times they aren't. In this one, they are distinct. So I gave this a 4. And then we had The Tempest. I gave this a 4 for stickiness, but then again, I recently read this one. So we'll see how sticky this is next year when I look at it. But I still remember the story very, very well. I gave it a 3.5 for characters. There are characters I remember very well, and there are characters I have to keep looking up to see who's who. So, yes, it's kind of a mixed bag as far as characters and how I think they really resonated with me. And then finally was Othello, and I gave this a 5 for stickiness, but keep in mind it's the most recent one I read, so we'll see how it goes next year. But for characters, I gave this a 4.5 because characters in this is a character play. Oh my goodness, these characters are fantastic in this play. Iago, the best villain I've ever seen written. Like, just really good. This is so psychological. It's very modern in that way. So yes, that was Othello. So let's see how our rankings ended up. And I'll kind of compare them to the original rankings. So, oh, my pile's messed up again. My original ranking for 10th place was Love's Labor's Lost with 12 points. And it is still in 10th place, but with 9 points. Yeah. And my original 9th was Love's Labor's Lost with 17 points, and it is still in 9th place with 16 points. In 8th place, my original was Cymbeline with 18 points, and it stays in 8th place with 18 points. So there was no change with Cymbeline. Now, my original 7th place was The Merchant of Venice, but now it's no longer in 7th place. Now it is The Merry Wives of Windsor. Is that right? Yeah, Merry Wives of Windsor, which did have 20 points and now has 19. So that was 7th. Okay, and then I had In 6th place, I had a tie between Coriolanus and the Merry Wives of Windsor. Merry Wives of Windsor is now down in 7th place, but Coriolanus stays in 6th place, still with 20 points. So there was no change for Coriolanus. And in 6th place, I had the Merry Wives of Windsor, but that went to where the Merchant of Venice was. So now I have the Merchant of Venice, which was at 19.5 points, and now it's at 21 points. And then I had the Merchant of Venice is tied for 5th place. These ties mess me up. And I did have Henry IV Part 1 in 3rd place, but it has moved down to be tied with the Merchant of Venice. So these are my 2 5th place plays. Okay. And Henry IV Part 1 had 23 points, and now it has 21 points. Okay. There's no 4th place because that was a tie. 3rd place is The Tempest, which had 22 and stayed at 22. So really the Tempest just sort of moved up because Henry IV Part 1 went down. So it stayed where it was. Which leaves, of course, 12th Night and Othello, which were my tied for number 1. There's no longer a tie. There's no longer a tie. In 2nd place, with a gain of 0.5, it went from 23.5 to 24, so a gain of 0.5 is 12th Night. Which of course means my new number 1 play is Othello, with a gain of a whole point from 23.5 to 24.5. So these are my new rankings for my Shakespeare plays for the first year of the Bard Room. Again, I will revisit these in December of next year. I will only have 9 plays because we have decided in April to do one of Shakespeare's longer poems instead. And I'm not going to include that in the rankings. So there'll only be 9 plays next month, one of which will definitely be A Midsummer Night's Dream. And after I finish this, I will know what the next one is because I'm going to film the draw video next. But anyway, there you go. If you would like to join us in the Bard Room, we would love to have you. The discussion is actually in a thread on my Discord. The information to join my Discord is down below. And you do not have to commit to reading every play. You can just drop in whenever you want. Whatever, that's fine. We would love to have you. So thank you very much. Like, subscribe, join my Discord if you'd like to join in the discussion. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.